Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Dr. Alan Hyde.
And I'm Don Radin.
Today we're going to be offering some encouragement. We're going to be looking at some different aspects of inspiration and motivation as it pertains to the family disease of addiction. We're going to jump into our first section here with some grounding to get you guys started and some information on recovery. And Don's going to kick us off here.
So there's a myth about there being linear recovery, and that's been certainly true for myself. I have been in recovery since 1987, and I do not have 40 years of sobriety. Um, the linear part being that once we've decided to get well, that it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be ups and downs, peaks and valleys. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. In fact, early recovery is usually not elated. Some people will experience that in their first few months, but others won't. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And there's still bad days that I have today, and it doesn't mean that I'm defined by my mistakes. It means that I'm just a human being trying to get through this life with all its challenges and its victories. So there's loss and there's victories, and welcome to the human existence, the human experience.
Yeah, kind of flows back and forth. And as our recovery flows, both for the family member, for those struggling with an active addiction, whether that be a process addiction, a substance addiction, hope is the name of the game. When you walk into a meeting, there's this concept of sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope. The family members do this in a program like Al-Anon, and the addicts do this in their respective, like NA, AA, OA, places like this, SA. And what we really want to get to is sharing as much hope as we can. But you may be sitting in a place today where you feel like you're lacking hope. And so the invitation when you're waking up for your day and you're seeing a video like this, or you're getting ready to go to bed in the evening and you feel like, I don't believe that there's hope, that I could get better, feel better, that my loved one's going to get better, we invite you to borrow our hope. All right. And this works in the recovery rooms of borrowing other people's hope, a shared experience. You can trust Dawn and I have walked these paths in addictions and with the families, both personally in our lived experiences and working with people, and we give our hope to others. And we don't do this for any type of return, although this helps through being of service. That's why when you walk into a meeting and someone is sharing their experience, strength, and hope, you see them feeling a lot better. And the hope is that you can latch onto that over time. You do not need to be sitting in a place where you have just abundant hope in your first couple days of recovery. Even if you're not the addict, if you're the family member struggling with someone that you love, struggling with their mental health and their substance use, you can borrow other people's hope to feel better today and keep showing up until things get better for you in your daily life.
Yeah, and as it pertains to people in recovering from a substance, the AA literature says that if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. So it doesn't mean that you have it. It means that you see that there are people just like myself and Alan who have gone through the mess that you've gone through, not specifically, but in a general way, and that we're not there anymore. So certainly grab a hold of that, because it helped me to see that there were people just as far gone as I was, and some of them farther, and they weren't in the same spot anymore. Um, excuse me. So also when it comes to anxiety, anxiety gives us a physiological response. We're going to have all kinds of, you know, that anxiety causes rapid heart rate, shallow breathing. This doesn't mean it's any indication of relapse. Again, this is part of the human range of emotions, and just because you feel bad doesn't mean you are bad.
Mm. And a lot of times anxiety, especially in the realms of addictions, gets confused. A big buzzword you're going to hear is like, I have OCD. OCD is a very severe diagnosis. It's also a pretty prevalent one. So you definitely want to get your assessments. You want to get these things figured out in the base roots of symptomology. But addictions and what family members go through walking with a loved one seeking recovery, anxiety is going to be a part of that process. There's going to be a lot of racing thoughts. There's going to be a lot of overthinking. There's going to be a bedrock of comfort seeking behaviors. And we want to really start to reframe that in the sense of getting into action around positive behaviors. And what that looks like in the beginning is, when I was in college, I used to rely on this term, C's get degrees, in my undergrad when I was playing ball. And I got good grades and I went and pursued higher education and all these things, but I gave myself permission to be messy. And our coaches used to kind of drive that home. It's like, yes, you change for the structure of college, but it's okay to be messy. And as long as you're trying, right, and applying yourself, this is what matters. And in our recovery, that's what matters most, is we show up a mess of ourselves in a messy situation, and that's okay. And we surround ourselves with people who embody that being okay. We call it B minus recovery. You're passing, you're going to be good. Your struggles are also good for other people to hear, to remind them that this is not just a one and done fix. And so keep coming back and share your mess, right? Share your mess, lean on people to help you carry the load, to help you find hope. And it doesn't need to be perfect to get into action.
That's so true. My messiness, especially with dual diagnosis, is has helped a lot of people where I've been sober this entire time. However, with my dual diagnosis, my bipolar 2, things have not been pretty. But it's given a lot of hope to those who are recovering from substances to see that, hey, you can still get well in spite of these difficulties and these challenges. And one of the ways that you can do this is act your way into right thinking. I've experienced personally both methodologies. One is to, take the action first and, move your feet, and the mind will follow. I've also had such a dramatic experience with spiritual experiences where it changed my thinking and perception, and my feet followed suit. Either way, the best way to tell if someone's recovering and getting better is to watch their feet and not listen to their mouth. Um, it's a funny thing. We like to talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, what are our feet doing? What direction does my mouth line up with my feet? Does my message line up with my action?
Mm. Yeah, are my feet and my head in the same room at the same time?
Right.
If you're watching this video, if it's come across your feed, don't scroll past it. Our mental health and our recovery and well-being requires us to get incrementally better over time. We've all seen the videos on social media by the influencers and the coaches, but from a therapist's perspective, the process of incremental change is extremely powerful. Getting 1% better, less than 1% better each day is extremely important. So if you just press play on this video and you listen to a word of encouragement that you can recover, whatever it is, I don't care if it's depression, anxiety, addiction, struggling with a loved one, if you just listen to encouraging messages just a little bit each day, you're sitting at the edge of your bed, you're getting ready to face your day, or you're getting ready to lay down, know and trust in your heart that you are not alone. And by embracing messages like this that you didn't scroll past, you're doing a little bit better. And it opens our mind to a world of possibilities. And when we open our mind to those perspectives, we connect with people who can share more information, and you never know where it's going to come from. So don't scroll past videos like this when you see Dawn and I's face. Listen to what's being shared, because we want to encourage you to embrace what well-being looks like in your life, to live abundantly.
And this relational shift, I will say, this abundant living isn't linear either. We're not poster boys of the best recovery We just have had a vast set of experiences that we can share with you, and some of them are not pretty. But in regards to that, there's a big difference between an apology and making amends. I'm not a fan of using the terminology when I'm making amends with someone. I don't say, "Hey, can I make amends with you?" I An apology is just words. An apology is, "I'm sorry." And my sponsor used to say, "Don, if you say I'm sorry, I'm just going to agree with you. You are sorry." And
Mm.
I did not like that very much. But he was right. It's so easy to say the words and then continue doing what we do. However, making an amendment is to change. It's not just vocal words. It's action. It's turning away from what you were doing to harm someone and living rightly.
Yeah, you know, and this is like when someone who's seeking change asks a question of like, well, what if I don't have an opportunity? I'll never see that person again. And this is what in the realms of recovery and in therapy we call the living amends, right? So you do this by changing your behavior and making sure that the behaviors that hurt someone before don't perpetuate and continue to hurt other people. And what that ties into is this process of like our loved ones when we've had mental health struggles or we have addiction struggles. They're going to be on a different healing time frame than we're on, and it's our changed behaviors that allow that person to join in a healing process. We talk about this all the time in recovery, is that you may be the only book of recovery that that person reads in their entire life, and they're going to read it through your behaviors, right? And so it only takes one person in a family or a friend dynamic to make the change for other people to start their timeline. And then what we have to remember, and I've had to remind myself as a family member of someone struggling with an addiction, is that my timeline of recovery doesn't necessitate them getting recovery. It doesn't mean that they'll get it quicker. It doesn't mean that they'll do it my way. They are on their path, and I need to show them the dignity, the love, and respect to explore that path, even if I don't like them in the moment. The process is, it just takes time. And when we amend our behaviors, I give my clients this picture. The amends is a mending of the bridge. This bridge that I thought I had burnt down to the ground is still sitting there with its structure. And if I can amend it through my behaviors by making better choices, it gives that person the option to walk across the bridge. This is the next analogy I really like with amends, is that when that person walks across, they're going to encounter an access gate. All right. These are our boundaries. We either have that open to certain people or we have it locked and closed, requiring a password for them to pass. All of these aspects of our behaviors, our boundaries, and making better choices allow for relationships to develop and to shift the narrative in those relationships for deeper connection. So we want to encourage you guys to really jump into that and to embrace the action of taking care of yourself and making better choices, because it does lead to a better life.
So there's a large time lag between a family's healing time and your sobriety. And a perfect example for that is that my ex-wife, the mother of my firstborn child, um, we divorced when my daughter was 3, and it took 12 years of consistency, 12 years of me showing up, 12 years of constant paying of child support, even though I wasn't seeing my daughter as regularly as I wanted or expected. But it was that consistency over a period of time that showed her that this was finally a different man, because she'd seen me sober before, and that was not, sobriety was not the key indicator that I was doing well. It was the consistency and showing up early when I went to pick her up and dropping her off early, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to squeeze every single second out of our visits. But I would drop her off early to show that I was not the same guy. And eventually she caught up. It didn't matter that I had doctors, judges, attorneys, the penal system writing these glowing letters about my character. She didn't care about that. She cared about watching what my feet did. And that leg sometimes takes a while. It took 12 years for my ex-wife, and I don't blame her for it. The previous 8 years were not lovely.
Yeah, and that, as you touch on the transparency, the honesty of it, right? That's what creates that relational shift. Someone that just really couldn't find a way to trust you, right? Couldn't find a way to trust us in our previous behaviors through the honesty. Everybody listening to this has probably heard the term radical honesty. And what we're really talking about in those realms is transparency, letting yourself be known. And when those behaviors are aligned with proper action, because good people have shown you how to do that, and you're willing to embody it with true willingness, people can trust that transparency, and it becomes a place where you can interact, and a shift can happen in the relationship. That honesty is really important also as it pertains to the ways that you hold boundaries when you're in a not so good situation, right? So having an exit strategy, right, from friendships, from situations where people are using, from when you're getting invited to places that you don't necessarily want to be, but you may have to be. These are areas when you're making relational shifts, you're making amends and cleaning up your behaviors. One really simple tool, it's like I had a client years ago who was really uncomfortable at family outings and holidays. And one of the biggest shifts that we made in the beginning of our work was don't stay under the same roof with them when you go on these vacations, and take your own car. So if you need space and you are at their house, you can drive away. But we always want to have our exit strategy. We may not use it, but as it pertains to your well-being and mental health, if you're stuck in a situation where you're uncomfortable, guess whose mental health is going to get worse in that moment? Not theirs. It's going to be yours. Right? So when we're seeing a situation with chaos unfolding, we need to prepare ourselves ahead of time with what the exit strategies are going to be. If you do those things and set yourself up with exit strategies, you will feel better. You will feel boundaried. You'll feel capable. You will feel like you have options. And it's all about giving yourself options when you're trying to heal and do better.
Mm-hmm. And with that, as a recovered alcoholic and addict, the big book says that if I'm trying to, enjoy drinking through someone else's experience, even though I'm sober, then I still have the mind of an alcoholic. If I am afraid to go into a certain situation, then it's better not to go at all and help someone else get through a difficult time than it is to try and endure something that may lead eventually to a relapse. And so one of the things that you're going to see and experience in the family dynamic is that there's a big difference between the person and an emotional response. So most people think about themselves. If you're still watching this, you're thinking, how does this benefit me? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just, again, part of the human experience. I'm not looking to survive for you. I'm looking to survive for me. Mm-hmm. So when someone has an angry outburst, and it can be directed at you, it's really not your mess. It's theirs. Unhealed trauma, unhealed, hurting people hurt people. And I'm teaching my kids that. So when someone, has a reaction on the school ground, that they don't have to respond in kind.
I'll give you a scenario. An addict is uncomfortable with a situation with their spouse and their partner and what they're up to. And they walk into the room, and before doing any investigation, they have a million things to say about the situation. Their partner becomes irritated and holds up for them. When we're out in public, you're the picture of the perfect spouse and the perfect person, but when we're behind closed doors, man, are you an asshole. When we unpack this process, what I shared with this individual is that we need to be specific about what's happening. Right? So when we respond, we need to be able to pause, and we have to be very specific with ourselves, because what the addict runs the risk of is taking those words, and the only thing they hear is, I'm an asshole. But it's not specific enough, right? What's more specific is that we're being self-righteous, we're being self-seeking, we're irritable, restless, discontent, we're feeling sad, we're feeling hurt, we're feeling unheard. We have to be specific with what is happening in those moments. When we take a moment to pause before we respond, I'll share with you the invitation from there that will help you in your dynamics, in your relationships. I am not given the invitation to speak on what my opinions are unless I have first been able to identify my character defect that is causing me to share that opinion. So before we respond or react to a situation, the invitation and really the prompt, right? It was a specific prompt that I charged my client with is before you can say anything to your wife in the next situation, you have to tell her what defect is presenting itself to her in this moment. If you've done that, you invite her response to it, and then you can share if she's given you the invitation to share on that defect. Not your opinion, what the reality of the specifier is, why you are making these emotions known. We are not ruled by our emotions. We experience them as they come up. We are also not ruled by our character defects. That's why in the process of recovery and healing in any mental health struggle, if you can identify specifically what's going on and communicate that to someone else, you invite genuine connection. And before you know it, whatever fight, argument, resentment, it starts to resolve. You can hear better, and then in return, you will be heard better. So I would encourage you, pause. In those moments that you're feeling keyed up, worked up, take a moment to pause, verbalize your own character defect. Hey, I'm getting ready to be very self-righteous in this moment. Or, hey, I'm getting ready to speak out of resentment. And then your partner may ask you a question about that. And instead of giving your opinion, you answer the question. If you can pause and respond in these ways, relationship dynamics go a lot better.
True, and one of the things that I ask my guys is, when was the last time someone asked for your opinion? We want to interject into every conversation what we think, how we feel, and I would say to you, I would challenge you as the viewer. How about speak when spoken to? How about respond with your opinion if asked? Otherwise, how about silence? Um, I will say that when we're vulnerable, we open ourselves to human connection, right? So I understand there's a big difference between opinion and experience. And my dad used to say, a man with an argument cannot hold a candle to a man with experience. And what ends up happening as part of this process is the people who aren't good for you, and for addicts especially, addicts and alcoholics, the people who aren't good for me, they just, when I start to recover and get well, they just go away. I don't really have to make any decisions to cut people out. However, when it comes to unhealthy relationships in romantic relationships or even familial relationships, my family, I had to cut out a bunch of my family because they just weren't good for me. And I know that family comes first, etc. I understand that those principles have some validity to them, but if I am always being affected by certain family members or certain relationships, it's okay to walk away from them because this is your life. And no one else is going to make you happy. No one else is going to make you sad or angry. It's up to you to separate or connect with that vulnerability to other people. Because I'll say this, and that is that my genuine connection to people, which is not very many, because I live that fake book life where everything looks lovely, but my true connections, my true friends are the ones that I can say, I'm struggling, I'm experiencing a heck of a mess today. And they're the ones who are there for me. They're the ones who help walk me through it, even if it's in silence, just to be a friend that, will listen.
This is why pruning the garden is it's crucial in our mental health, our well-being, our recovery in the family system. It's okay to walk away, like Dawn was saying, from people who don't support you in the healthy decisions that you're making. Now, we can be reasonably sure by the confirmation of other people that are choosing healthy behaviors, whether or not your behaviors are healthy. And if it's in line with community and you're being of service to people and someone doesn't accept that, it's okay to prune your garden. I was talking about this situation with a client the other day where she had been mistreated over and over and over again in her social circles for her certain political beliefs. It's like, look, everybody has different political beliefs, and we really shouldn't, as it pertains to our mental health or relationships, weigh in too heavily on either side of what someone believes politically. But when we're being mistreated as a result of those things, we can't get bogged down by the need to remove ourselves from those situations. And the same is true as it pertains to religion, as it pertains to our recovery and our mental health and the choices that we make day to day. If someone has proven themselves with their actions and behaviors to be harmful in your life, you don't need to hesitate or question blocking that person. Now, the reason I use that term is because we live in a digital age, and the concept that she was sharing was she had fear of blocking that person because it's so final, and she always felt like it was this immature situation. What I held up for her is what I'll share with you guys in the process of pruning our garden, is that if you've made every attempt to amend your own behaviors, you've communicated what it is that you don't like through a process of boundaries, saying, hey, when X, Y, and Z happens, I don't like the way that feels, and it continues to happen, it's okay to block a person. You don't have to think about it twice. You've already stated the boundary. You don't need to reiterate it. We live in a world where you can see 20 billion different videos on, I blocked them to protect my inner peace and my well-being. It's like, bleh, gross, right? There's a base reality outside of those videos, which is if you've communicated and done right by yourself and chosen healthy behaviors and you're being mistreated, you need to pull yourself out of that situation, because being around people who mistreat you perpetuate your desire to self-sabotage. And this is the way human beings operate with their behaviors. So the more you hang out with people who are up to no good and treat you no good, the more likely you're going to be up to no good and treat people no good. And so as we seek to turn our lives over and to live healthier in our behaviors, we have to separate ourselves from people who aren't on that path. And in the digital age, what that means is blocking them on all forms of social media, blocking their phone number, and getting the influence out of your life. And you don't need to shame yourself or feel guilty about doing it, because it's in the vein of taking care of you, right? And setting healthy boundaries for the progression of your life.
So, what can we do about some of these things? What are some of the tools that we can use? One of them is to not fight feelings, the obsession to drink or to use. Because the truth is, if you're an addict or an alcoholic, you don't have the power to stand up against that obsession. But what we have found is that by working the 12 steps, that we will tap into a power greater than ourselves that will solve all our problems. And I don't have to I don't have to follow the thought all the way through to the end. A lot of the idea of playing the tape all the way through, my addict mind only plays the tape a certain portion of it and dresses it up and makes it look lovely. Um, but by slowing down and not allowing my emotions to drive my actions, um, I'll find that eventually those emotions fade and change into something else. Nothing lasts forever. No pain lasts forever. No anger lasts forever, especially if you've done a four-step. Um, but these feelings you can just ride them out. And what I found is, with a lot of men that I work with, they'll say, oh, I just want to kill myself. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't take suicidal ideation seriously. We absolutely should. But what I have found, the vast majority of men who say that just don't know how to articulate, this hurts, I'm afraid, and I'm afraid it's going to last forever. And when we're in pain, 1 second is an eternity too long. And then when we're happy, it never lasts long enough. just to ride this out, and you'll see that your now doesn't have to be your later.
Like I shared before, if you're watching this video and it's come across your feed, do not scroll. If you struggle with, feeling like you smoke marijuana too much, you're questioning whether you drink too much, here's a simple way to check in with yourself. Instead of saying, I'm never going to do this again, focus on, I'm not going to do this today. I'm not going to do this in the next hour. Right? I'm going to check in with myself. See, when Dawn is talking about riding the urge and letting it subside and using our community as medicine, we have to remember that no one's asking you to stop smoking, stop drinking, stop doing drugs forever for the rest of your life. Tomorrow's not promised. Right? So stop scrolling, hear this message. Tomorrow's not promised. If you feel like you have a problem, just stop today and listen to your gut as to what you may need to feel a little better. We're not trying to be detectives to determine, are you an addict right this moment? We're trying to help give you a daily reprieve. And maybe if you've listened this far, you need that daily reprieve. And we are here to offer that to you as an invitation for you to hear it, that you deserve a daily reprieve, whether it's a problem or an unmanageable addiction. You deserve love, dignity, respect, and a daily reprieve of peace today.
And that reminds me of a saying, FTW. Now, if you're watching this, you probably are coming up with your own acronym for FTW, and it's really first thought wrong. My very first thought, the first thought that I have on any given situation, typically is the wrong thought. Maybe I should think it a little bit further through and take a look at the second and third thoughts and fourth thoughts, instead of acting right now on my emotions, attitudes, and ideas. I will say that mindfulness is paramount. Being aware of yourself. Part of the 10 step is we continue to watch. That's the very first part of the 10 step. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. So it's not that they won't crop up. They absolutely will. But I need to be mindful of how I'm feeling and check my internal barometer of what's going on with me internally. Am I projecting feelings about a situation from times past? Emotions typically are created from past experiences, and I project them on now experiences, and they're not necessarily true. Oh, well, that time that my girlfriend broke up with me, these are the earmarks that led me to believe, and then she left. Now, those are the earmarks of someone who will leave me. And then I see them on another relationship, and I turn tail and run because I've already given up on it, when really that's projecting a past experience on a now experience. So emotions can't necessarily be trusted.
Yeah, what can be trusted is our bodies. We're going to hear the term over and over again, anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous makes a statement that I fundamentally, as a therapist, agree with, which is that as human beings, but especially as addicts or the family member of addicts, our lives are shot through with fear every thread, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an acknowledgement in the world these days about that like base experience. We see it all over social media. You're probably listening to this and like, man, that really hits. I'm dealing with a lot of fear. Your body is going to cue you into that fear, and the best remedy is action. Remembering, right? So our action starts with this, is remembering that the fear isn't real right now. There's a reality of a situation, and then there's all the ways that we think that this situation could play out, right? But all the ways that we think that it could, good or bad, because on either extreme isn't a good thing for us, right? The way I'm thinking this out isn't real. It hasn't happened yet. What's real is right here in the moment. And my body is cueing me into emotions. And what may be really good is to start to enact some of those tools my therapist was telling me to use, right? Maybe it's time to start challenging some of these negative thoughts. And it's not to get like so full of candy, right? Like a pinata that you hit and candy just comes out and being so overly positive. It's about remembering and acknowledging that my body is cueing me to these things. And when I'm in a state of fear, that on switch of the fear and anxiety may just be clicked on, right? Every single time I have a thought, I'm clicked into fear. And having that awareness that I'm being ruled in this moment by fear is a point in our inventory when we check in with ourselves as human beings to challenge. So, what is in my environment right now to be fearful of? And if the answer is nothing because you're just sitting on your bed or sitting in a chair, then maybe it's time to transition into some encouragement around taking some deep breaths. All right. And Dawn's going to talk about that just a little bit here in a moment, but slowing yourself down and remembering, hey, look, my body may be keyed up, but that doesn't mean that these situations that I'm thinking through are all real and going to happen right now. If you're in recovery, it doesn't mean that the thoughts about your relapse are real because you're not there, it hasn't happened yet, and you may need to just get plugged in with good people. All right. Or if you're the family member, so my loved one's going to use substances, it's not real yet. Right. But the reality may be that they're presenting with some behaviors that support would be helpful for them. But the support for you, if you could acknowledge it, is extremely crucial. We don't worry about the support that someone else is getting. We worry about the support that we receive, and that's our bedrock reality to take action and challenge anxieties.
Well, and I love that about it's a $2 word. Anxiety is a $2 word for fear, and one of the acronyms in recovery is false evidence appearing real. I project that future event. Fear always happens in the future. We feel it now, but it's something that we're afraid of, that we're going to lose something that we have, not gain something that we want, or that someone will find out something we did. And quite honestly, all of those outcomes, I don't know how they're going to play out. Everything that I feared to happen didn't necessarily play out. And I played every single outcome that there was in my head, and none of them happened. But having said that, the 11th step states that we continued to, through prayer and meditation, to seek God's will and will for us and the power to carry it out. So it's that mindfulness, and it's that taking a break, taking a pause. We pause when agitated or doubtful is another phrase in the big book. And all agitation is resentment, and doubtful is fear. And those two things are paramount to preceding a relapse if we ride those out. And so we pause, we take a moment and take a breath. And there's several breathing exercises. There's box breathing. There's one that involves blowing out as though you're exhaling it through a straw, and just taking that time to exhale everything out. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. This helps to alleviate stress, anxiety, fear, even resentment. It gives me enough time to not react to something, but it gives me enough time to respond.
Yeah. And it's a lot cheaper than paying someone like me an hourly rate, right? It's free to you. It's free to use. That's why we post these videos. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in your car. You can do it at the grocery store. You could do it in a social interaction. Slow down, pause, take a breath. As we transition, you guys following along here, all of this breaks down to like, Dawn and I want you to be doing better. Right? We do these videos, we do this content because we want you to be better. And as you do that, you're going to feel the urge that anybody does. If you're a member of our community, or you're just somebody out there floating and seeing this video and you're trying to get better, you're going to be presented with a desire to get things right. You're going to be presented with a desire to do things perfectly and to fix things as quick as you can. And I want to remember you. I want to remind you to implement the word yet into your vocabulary. I'm trying to figure this out, but I haven't figured it out yet. I want to feel better, but I don't feel better yet. I want to do better, but I'm not doing better just yet. If you can implement this word into your vocabulary, it gives you options. It gives you the wiggle room to figure things out. So many people that I work with, they'll say things like, I just can't figure this out. All right. And they pay me a lot of money to reframe for them. You just haven't figured it out yet. Oh man, I haven't thought about it that way. Most of us don't. I didn't think about it that way until I sat down with a therapist. Everything was dire, everything was a problem, everything was so serious and it had to be solved right now. And if I could tell you one thing today, it's that things unfold over time, right? And if you have good intentions for yourself and other people, then maybe you just haven't figured out yet how much better it could be.
Well, and that reminds me of something that was once said to me, and I didn't quite believe it in the beginning, but I only experienced it later, and that is that if you were to write everything that you wanted for your life in 5 years, the person that you wanted to be in 5 years, that if you continue down the spiritual path and you seek inward growth, which manifests into outward action, that 1% change that we talked about earlier, just 1% better, that in 5 years you will have grossly underestimated how much better your life is. So knowing that there's a future that is brighter than you ever imagined can help you through these processes, through these difficult times. And it's that future you that's going to experience a courage and bravery because of the battles that you fought 5 years ago.
You're about to break through. And maybe you've been at it for a really long time and it's starting to feel exhausting, right? Or you've been at it for a long time and it's going really well, but you're about to break through to be the person that you want to be and that you've been working to be, and it starts to feel really heavy. I want to remind you today that a breakthrough often feels the heaviest right before it eases up, right before you settle into what the change needs to be. That breakthrough is a real challenge to get from where you were and the struggles and the things that you're ashamed of to a place where you're breaking through into being of service to people, to being of service to your community, to building things that grow, that people find value in. It often gets heavy right before you're about to break through. You know, this is where people start to question, is it even worth it? What am I doing? I've been at it for this long. Why is this a challenge now? You know, when we start to take care of our mental health, when we start to transition into recovery from addictions, when we start as a family member to start to take care of ourselves, even when our loved ones are still struggling, it gets really heavy when we sit with the reality of our own individual health and well-being, our relationship with a higher power, and our relationship with other people. We will turn corners if we stick with it and we take the next challenge in stride. Do not give up before the miracle. It will get heavier, right? But it also gets easier. We tell a lot of individuals as they're seeking their early recovery is that this thing that you tell yourself that you have to do today is what you will tell yourself in the future that you get to do today. There's a real freedom in breaking through awarenesses and breaking through into a spiritual lifestyle and breaking through into deep abundance in your connections and relationships. Do not quit before the miracle, no matter how heavy it gets, because we need you. We need you.
Well, as Al had talked about earlier, that we're basically the sky, not the weather. We're better than our circumstances. We're better than our emotions. We're better than our fears. And one of the beautiful sayings that quotes that I love, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's from Marianne Williamson, and she states basically that we're not afraid of being a failure. What our genuine fear is of being bright and showing the world how awesome we are, and that when we absolutely embrace that, then we give permission to the people around us to raise to their highest level and their highest self. And I would just say that this too shall pass is a phrase that you'll hear in the 12-step land. And it's true. nothing stays forever. No difficulty, no challenge, no fear stays forever. And if you can remind yourself that you were meant to be brilliant, you were meant to be bright. And so shine on, you crazy diamond.
Yeah. And as you step into taking care of yourself and letting yourself be your authentic self, you don't have anything to prove to anybody. Right? In the digital age, there's editing and presenting yourself as something perfect. You don't have anything to prove. Just we put ourselves out there in our relationships, in our recoveries with people on social media, whatever it is. Just be you, right? Know that you're worth living and you're worth saving and you're worth healing. Your worthiness is not up to other people. Just be yourself. And remember that people love you. People want you to succeed. And the ones who don't, we prune them out, right? So that what becomes louder in our lives is that shine that Don was talking about, is to really just be brilliant in who you are as a person and know that who you are is enough. And that's predicated and built upon a foundation of choosing healthier and better decisions. We're not abdicating for, hey, you're making terrible decisions and you're just enough in that. What we're abdicating for is being of service, taking care of yourself, working with other people, carrying a message of hope to other people. And in that, no matter what it looks like, that's enough. And you are worthy.
And realizing that you don't need approval from anyone means that you believe in yourself. It means that in a world that we live in where our life and our happiness is almost dictated by how many likes and positive comments we get. Alan and I have done some very controversial content and had some very difficult people who believe that they are become better if they elevate themselves above someone else by stepping on our heads, and it's just not true. It exposes their ugliness, and you don't have to be defined by them. You don't have to be defined by your likes or dislikes or your negative comments. That your authentic self is good enough. It really genuinely is, and it's probably better than you realize. That you don't need approval from anyone else. You don't need someone to pat you on the back. That you're better. You're better than that. You don't need people to validate you. And the people who are closest to you, the people who really value you as a human being, will celebrate your wins, and they'll mourn your losses with you, and they won't elevate themselves above you by putting you down or saying, well, you deserved it, or these types of statements. That the people who really love and support you are going to celebrate you.
I want to live, baby, and I want to live well.
That's it.
Speaking of people who live well, we're going to tell you guys just a couple of success stories. Don and I are going to share one each. Don, you want to go first? You want me to go first? How do you want to do this?
Sure, I'm gonna front this man out too. His name is Robbie Bastian. He came to us. He'd been to, I don't know, 5 or 6 different treatment centers before coming to Recovered and Free, and he could not stay sober. He went to 12-step land and tried to do that, and he ended up getting involved in bad relationship after bad relationship. I would encourage you, if you're watching, not to look for your future wife in recovery land. Although you may find her there, I would not search for her there, or him. But he had to make some very difficult decisions. He incrementally improved himself by 1%. In fact, we extended him an extra month because he needed it. And his ego and pride needed to dissolve a little bit further, a little bit, less of him, of Robbie, and more of God and helping other people. And this is a man who could not keep a server job. Now, a lot of serving people in the service industry, or at least a lot of the addicts that I work with, are in the service industry because it's quick money, and they don't have to be super reliable. And Robbie couldn't even do that. He couldn't pull that off. Now today, he's a business owner, owns his own roofing company that's very successful, um, and he's bought his own house and has his own wife and is traveling across the planet. And this is a man who could not keep a server job, that could not stay sober. And so, if it can happen for Robbie Bastian, it can happen for you.
Absolutely. Think of a gentleman in my practice, and we'll call him, for all intents and purposes, John Doe. John came to me when I was 25 years old. I was working at a treatment center in Southern California, right in the heart of Newport Beach. You could walk across the street and you're at the beach. When he came to me, he was a multimillionaire. He had a house on the bluffs in Malibu, California, one of the most expensive places in the world to live. He was a CFO for a large Fortune 500 company, and he had built his career in that process on the back of becoming a lawyer and then finding himself in a CFO position. And John, when he came to me, could not manage his life. He drank himself silly, and he lost everything he had built. Slowly, one by one, he lost his wife, right, through a divorce. His two sons wanted nothing to do with him. He lost his fortune. He lost the house. He lost the cars. And here he was at the doorstep of a treatment center. Fast forward 7 years later, I'm sitting with John, and he says, when I first walked into that treatment center, if someone would have told me your age, I would not have sat down and worked with you. But today, 7 years later, clean and sober for 7 years, I know that meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And it doesn't mean that I'm just the greatest therapist. What he was relaying to me were simple principles that a 25-year-old man was relaying to a 50-year-old man on how to manage his life. And the one takeaway that he often comes back to, that we've determined together is just such a huge success, is that while he was in treatment, he got a simple tattoo on his wrist of the pause button. And when I first started working with him, I would tell him, just pause, just stop. All the noise, all the desires, all the wants, right? You're living your life out of this carnal desire to want things and then to present to everybody else that, see, this thing that I wanted, I obtained, and nobody cares. Everybody around you who does care is just asking you to pause. What are you actually feeling? What are you actually experiencing? What do you actually need in your life? And can you manage that day to day? And when he embraced it, I watched a man who could not manage his life despite all the things that he wanted and obtained. He could not manage his day-to-day life. I watched a man embrace change, get into the rooms of recovery, take daily reprieves, and pause in his responses and his reactions. And 7 years later, he is getting ready to take a 7-year chip. He's going down to Mexico to have his commitment ceremony with his partner, who he's been with for 5 years, and they're going to tie the knot. He's got his dream job, right? So he had lost a position as a CFO. He built his way back into a position just as a lawyer, in a position that is manageable, that he was striving for when he was in treatment through a process of letting go. This company would not hire him. And I remember in that first round of sessions, he would just talk about it over and over again. This company that wanted nothing to do with him has hired him into the position that he was hoping for then. It took years for that to be a process, and it was a process of letting go. I am not telling you this success story of a client as if things are just going to fall in your lap as well. What I'll share with you is that through a process of simple daily actions, you can find abundance in your life in a way that's truly manageable. He's not seeking to buy a house on the bluffs or become a multimillionaire and build himself back up to where he was. He finds little moments of service for the people in his meetings, and he's got a life of abundance in order to do so spiritually. He seeks it out. They seek him out. He sponsors a bunch of men. Right? It's just a beautiful thing to behold. When we don't live out of a desire for all the wants and we take care of our needs, life gets better. And that's the biggest success that I can highlight, is I don't even care about the job that he was able to obtain. What I care about is a man who sits in peace in our sessions and has a true joy and abundance in his life through the connections that he's amassed. And we want the same for you guys.
And ultimately, if you look at, as you go through this day, hopefully you've made it through this entire video, and you are, looking for some positive affirmations. These are the things that are basic truths, and that is that you're not defined by your mistakes. You're defined by what you do with them, and what you do with them is incrementally make yourself better by better decisions, by seeking a power greater than yourself, by helping other people, that you are worthy, and that you're not defined by your past, and you're safe. Like, you're safe right now. You're obviously in a position, you're either at home or at work, or going somewhere watching this video. You've got technology in your hand, you've got clothes on your back, that it doesn't matter what your situation is. As bleak as it may look, you're safe. You're okay, and you're not defined by your past. Realize that your worth is greater than some of the thoughts in your head, that you're valued beyond what you can see.
Yeah. Your worth isn't on trial. No one's looking here to break down your worth. And anybody who has those statements, right, that tell you you're unworthy, we prune them out. Your worth is not on trial. That's inherent. It was given to you at birth, and that never stopped being the truth. You're enough. You deserve to heal. You deserve to find recovery today. You deserve to do the hard things. You're capable of doing the hard things. No matter what the case is, I'm going to choose myself today. I may come from an environment that was chaotic or hurtful, right, with a lot of fights and arguments. But in my adult life and my maturity today, I'm going to choose myself. These are the affirmations that we want you to use. 10 seconds. All right, check in with yourself. Something that was extremely foundational for me early in my recovery is that good people presented me with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I used to take it just 5 seconds to state it out loud. And when my mind would spin, I would just state it over and over and over again in my head. It's a mantra. So any of the statements that we've given you here, I choose myself today. I'm safe today. I am worthy of healing. My worth isn't on trial. Whatever it is, use them as mantras to challenge the world, right? We are charged as human beings to go out in the world and share this good news, right? That there is hope and there is healing, and we can and do recover. Go and share it. Share it here first, share it here, back and forth, and share it with me. Get in that comment section and share your worth. Tell us what's up in your recovery. Tell us what's up in your family and the healing that's happening, the generational bonds that you're breaking. We want to know these things from our community. We want to celebrate it with you. We want to mourn the things that you're struggling with you. We genuinely care. I can't tell you how many conversations I've gone back and forth with people in the comments who are having a hard time, and they're just really leaning in, and they appreciate that I take the time to communicate with them. Dawn does the same. We care about you guys, right? Let us know where you're at. We appreciate you following along this long. I mean, we're going to be here every week sharing inspirational, motivational, positive, gratitude, whatever it is, whatever you get from it. We're going to be here doing it and sharing it. Every now and then we may get controversial, but either way, we love you guys.
Peace.
See ya.